Right friends, fair warning, this has spoilers in it for the Acotar series, for the Throne of Glass series and the Crescent City series, so if you have not read those yet, please click on to my next video. Next week we'll hopefully have something that's a little more everyone friendly, but this week there are spoilers, so please go into this video being aware of that. First off, hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me on my cozy bookish corner of the internet. Obviously today's video is a second part to a video you guys really enjoyed that I posted a while back, which was my crazy and slightly unhinged Acotar theories, which I'll link up here for you guys if you want to check that out first. As I said in that video, I have finally finished House of Sky and Breath. I don't know why I've got the bookmark poking out the bottom. Anyway, I finally finished House of Sky and Breath, and I had read the whole series before, but I was reading Throne of Glass and Acotar, and now I finished reading Crescent City before I start reading the new Crescent City book, which is A House of Flame and Shadow, which I am so excited for. And because it had been a while since I'd read the Crescent City stuff, like, some of my memory on it, like I'm dyslexic, I have the world's shortest attention span, all that sort of stuff, so some of the stuff wasn't fresh in my mind, so I thought it'd be really cool to finish reading them all and then do another crazy unhinged theory video for you guys to show even more theories that I think I have so far. But before we go into that, really quick, I'm just really proud of this and I want to share this with someone. So this here, I've done a little bit of a rearrange of my bookshelf, nothing major, so I haven't like filmed it or anything because, you know, it really wasn't that big of a shift. But this little shelf here is now my TBR shelf, which is already full, so I might have to try and figure out a second one. But I've made a little TBR shelf and I think that's really cool. But anyway, without further ado, let's take a sip of coffee and get into my slightly unhinged theories. So the first one I put down, actually, we're going to ignore because actually it has proven that I'm right, which I'm not going to ignore it because I think it shows my ability to figure out Sarah J Maas's mind. But I said the Star Sword was one of the Swords of Power, and obviously we find out at the end of Sky and Breath that it is Gwydion, the lost sword from Acotar that is mentioned throughout the series. So obviously I'm just using that one to show that I'm right in a lot of these so far. So I think a lot of my crazy theories might come true, which is rather exciting. I've got a lot of theories. I think because I've just finished reading the entire Throne of Glass series, I do have a lot of theories that link Crescent City and Throne of Glass. Sarah J Maas, in an interview somewhere, I think, mentioned that the pregnant fae couple that Aileen sees when she's falling through the worlds in, is it Kingdom of Fire? In the final Kingdom of Ash, my bad, Crown of Fire, too many names, too many. Kingdom of Ash, where she's flying through, that pregnant fae couple is Feyre and Rhysand. So that makes me think that crescent-shaped city that is full of high-rise buildings has to be Crescent City. Why else would she be falling through so many different realms? And obviously now we know that Crescent City and Acotar are linked. So if she's then shown that there's a link to Acotar and Throne of Glass, it's obvious it's all going to come together because, duh, you know? Not to sound rude, but let's go with some of my Throne of Glass theories to start with. At any rate, I think one of the big ones for me is, and I don't necessarily think that this is unhinged, I think that Lydia, or the Hind, is linked to Aileen. I think she's a stag shifter and a witch. Like, I mean, there's just too many things, you know what I mean? Like, there's too many things lining up there for it to not be Throne of Glass. I think particularly the stag shifter for me, but the whole witches things, they have iron brooms. I've got this whole theory with the ironwood bed from Acotar linking the witches in Throne of Glass to Feyre and the sisters. So obviously some of the witches in Crescent City are from the Throne of Glass realm because they use ironwood brooms. So that is a very obvious link, and I think the fact that Lydia is a stag shifter, it's just Terracen through and through, isn't it? I have a feeling she's like a direct descendant to Aileen, maybe like a granddaughter or something, but I think she's definitely 100% related to Aileen. Plus, you know, When she's Agent Day, she's like bright and fiery, and she's fire and a stag. I mean, come on. You know, it's so on the nose it almost hurts, you know what I mean? So maybe that's not an unhinged theory, but it's definitely a theory. Yeah, no. But that also got me thinking, like, the whole who else could be related to who? And I don't know. I have the... Mor has to be related to someone. I just have this feeling that Mor is related to someone. And at first I thought maybe she's also related to Aileen, and like her and Lydia are like cousins or something. But then I had an even better thought. What if Mor is related to Asterin? Asterin. How do we pronounce that? Because dyslexic. I don't know how to pronounce that. Asterin, Manon's second in command, because she's got the golden hair, the beautiful eyes. She's, you know, supposed to be this innate beauty, and it just, I don't know, I was thinking about it when I was reading Throne of Glass, and I just kept thinking, oh my god, you know, the golden light, everything, it feels so Mor. And I really think Mor is definitely related somewhere. I think that the witches make sense to me as to where she's related, more so than Aileen. And I wonder if maybe she's like a queen of witches, which would be really cool if she was like a queen of witches, but within the Acotar world, because we kind of don't have that, and witches are mentioned in Acotar. Obviously they've got a very different connotation in Acotar, and they're seen more as like a scary, ominous figure. But they're definitely there, so it'd be interesting to see how that develops, because I do think that there will be some development with that. I think the witches are going to play a huge part in Crescent City, carrying on. So I'm really interested to see where Mor fits into that, because she just has to, you know? I just think she has to. Honestly, this list is so long. I need to figure it out. I also think that the ring that we keep seeing Lydia talk about is one of Rowan. I think it's Rowan who has the emerald. No, I think it's Rowan who has the ruby, isn't it? And Aileen has the emerald for their marriage bands. And so I think that again links me to think that Lydia's directly related to them, that it's Rowan's ring that she's wearing, and it's like been passed down and stuff. So the next one, I think, obviously, Dusk's truth. I think it's very evident that we're talking about the missing Dusk court. What I think is going to be interesting is there's a line in Crescent City where she says, something feral opened an eye in Bryce's soul and snarled, which I think, first off, fantastic writing, but that sounds like High Lady in a monster kind of vibes. I think Bryce is High Lady of the Dusk Court. And if you remember my last video, I think this also then feeds into this whole idea that she could potentially be a High Queen, because we know there's going to end up with some form of High King Queen situation. I know there's a lot of pegs on it being Rhysand, and I still think it potentially will, but it could be interesting to see where Bryce ends up power-wise, because obviously we know she's very powerful, but we haven't seen her in relation to the others. So, you know, obviously their worlds are very different, so we don't know where their powers actually line up until we see them testing against each other. So it'd be interesting to see that as well, to see where she lines up and whether or not she is something a little bit more. But I think definitely at least a High Lady. So another one that I think obviously links to Throne of Glass is word marks, because those are definitely going to be coming in more and more and more. But there's loads of strange symbols in the Bone Quarter in Crescent City, and I think that those are word marks on the obelisks that they have. I think that those could potentially be word marks, which would mean that then there's some kind of magic going on there, which makes me also wonder if the Reapers that can travel across worlds, if we've seen them in Throne of Glass or Acotar, which then spirals me into this thing of, is a Reaper what the Suriel is? Is the Suriel, like, that could be a really cool little connection. I think that's really cool. Anyway, I do. But I definitely think that Jessica is someone we need to be keeping our eyes on. Obviously she knows what's going on. She knows something, because that woman has the Book of Breathings, which makes me have this whole thing of maybe she's like Asterin or something. Like maybe her soul fell through and she has somehow managed to hold on to it or some, I don't know. I feel like 13 might be involved in some way. I feel like there's a link there, but she's obviously someone to keep an eye on. And we hear talk as well about Hunt's dad being someone important. And we hear that Jessica kind of maybe knew, or it's hinted towards Jessica knowing Hunt's dad, which makes me wonder if maybe Jessica is Hunt's mum. Just a thought. Just a thought. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. God, I've been jumping around this list like crazy and I'm kind of losing what I've done. So we've obviously got the whole, like, is Thea Rhys's sister? I'm not necessarily so sure on that one now. I think the differences between Rune and Rhys, they mention the fact that Rhys is more tanned, which is obviously his Illyrian heritage. And if both his mum and sister go missing at the same time, Rhys and Rune are evidently related in somehow because they have the violet blue eyes, and Bryce thinks she sees Rune when she first sees Rhys. So obviously they're related. How direct or anything, I think, is still unknown. Another theory I had is about Tharion and the Viper Queen. I've got a few theories floating about at the moment about a Viper Queen. The first is that the Viper Queen very evidently caused Tharion to swear a blood oath. Like, that's very obvious. And then he talks about the weird coloured blood. I think the Viper Queen is part Valg in some way, shape or form. The Viper Queen is either full Valg or part Valg. And then I had this whole other thing. Is the Viper Queen Maeve with contacts? But also, speaking of Valg, I wonder if Amarantha was a Valg. That is one I think, because she was corrupt, you know? And if... I don't know, it would just make sense why she was able to trick so many High Lords. I still don't think it necessarily makes sense why a 19-year-old girl was able to defeat her regardless of what she was, but it would make more sense as to why she was able to defeat all the High Lords, at least. I wonder if she was Valg. Just saying. Continuing on with where people are from, let's talk about the Midgard shifters. Evidently they are from the Throne of Glass universe because of the fact that Lydia is very evidently being hyped up to be related to Rowan and Aileen. It also then makes me wonder if maybe, like, the Fendir line comes from Fenris. Like, that would be really cool. I think that's a really nice little link that I would really enjoy. But it makes me think that the Midgard shifters are from Throne of Glass, because that would make a lot of sense, especially considering the Fae in Throne of Glass all have animal forms. Granted, obviously, like, Aileen's was a human form, that was her animal, but all of them have an animal form of sorts, so it would make sense when they're talking about finding out that all the Vanir are basically random Fae from different worlds. It would make sense that the Vanir from Throne of Glass are the ones that have become the different forms of shifters. That would be my assumption. Speaking of Throne of Glass, I also think that the drop is really similar to, like, spiraling down into your power somehow. I don't know, I feel like that reminds me of that. And it's interesting, I'm just very interested in the fact that there's a lot of talk about spiraling down into power, dropping into power from Throne of Glass and Crescent City, but not so much from Acotar, so I'd be interested to see where the differences are, but I do think the drop and spiralling into your power seem quite similar in some way, you know, finding those limits in that way. Jelly Jubilee is 100% Hellion, or Hellion Steed at any rate. I think that, you know, all these beautiful Pegasus horses that they talk about, obviously they had the Pegasus horses in Acotar, and there's very obvious talk that it's very evident that they began to decline with the loss of the Dusk court. There's a strong chance that they are the Fae that were trapped in stone. That's what I think that trapped in stone thing is, and the use of the heart in some way potentially, because they were banging to get back through, not necessarily stuck in stone. That's my theory anyway. But I think that the first wars included those Pegasus stuff, and that's where you get Jelly Jubilee and all the different unicorns and Pegasi, Pegasi? What is the plural of a Pegasus? But anyway, that's where I think that they all come from, and oh my god, I need Bryce to get one of the winged horses of Hellion and call it Jelly Jubilee, and I need to see her riding into battle on Jelly Jubilee. I need to see that in my life. I have a strong theory that the Wild Hunt were the Asteri because they fed on humans and Fae alike, and that would also make Leanthus, the monster that is in the prison that Cassian fought and that tried to woo over Nesta during A Court of Silver Flames would be an Asteri as well, which also could make sense. He could be the lost Asteri of the Seven. That's another theory I have potentially, but it would make sense that the Wild Hunt were Asteri or Valg. But I have a stronger theory that they are the Asteri over Valg, because I have this theory that out of the mortal bodies they're locked into, I think the Asteri are some form of ethereal form, so that they are shadow or light or something like that, as opposed to physical beings. That's my theory. Anyway, Hell could be the Valg. That is also another theory I have. The wasteland that is Hell is the Valg's realm, which is a whole other thing. That's also a potential theory. But I do think that they are somehow linked, and because of that, it makes me wonder where they talk about the prototypes for the angels that we see in Crescent City, Hunt, Isaiah, the rest of them. They had a world where they had prototypes, and I think that is yet again Prythian and that whole realm. I don't actually know what the world is called of where Prythian is. I know they've got like the mainland stuff. I don't know the name of the world. So if you know that, comment that down below and where you found that, because I can't for the life of me remember. I think that potentially the Bat Boys, or like the Illyrians and the Day Court equivalents that have the more fluffy wings, are the prototypes of the angels. And the reason I think that is because, you know, they talk about Fae having pointed ears, and Regulus talks about breeding out the pointed ears, which would make sense that if they picked Fae with wings, bred them out so that they lost their ears. The Illyrians have rounded ears, and I'm assuming it's not really talked about, but they say that the Day Court equivalent, I can't remember their names, I'm so sorry, but the guys with the big feathered wings have rounded ears as well, I believe. So that would make sense. How they evolved was they were bred by the Asteri, which would make Hunt part of the Day Court, which would then potentially make sense with the weather stuff, because he would be part of a solar court. That is my theory there. Okay, I've literally been talking for 30 minutes and I still have several more to go, but I think I'm gonna leave it there, because if I keep going with these, I'm gonna be talking non-stop. And you guys are going to get sick of me. So I'm going to leave that there for my crazy theories for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I do hope also, if you like it, like, comment, subscribe, do all the things to help me out as well. Don't forget as well to comment all your crazy theories down below, because I loved reading them in the last video. Some of you had some fantastic theories. And next week, or hopefully next week, because I'm hoping to finish it in a few days, but as soon as I finish this video, I'm going to start vlogging for reading House of Shadow and Flame, so do make sure that you have your notifications turned on so that you can see next week's video, whether that is the vlog or whether that's a different video. It will be out soon either way, but there will be a video next week. I do have a backup filmed and ready if I don't finish the vlog in time. But I do hope you've loved this video as much as I've enjoyed filming it. I can't wait to continue growing and discovering all these different books with you guys. I will be getting through some of these, chatting about some more of my books soon. But in the meantime, as always guys, happy reading. Bye guys!